Liberal media is in meltdown mode over losing the plot on what's happening in California, no longer able to contain the backlash that's coming from voters on the ground over their government's sheer incompetence. MSNBC's Jen Psaki losing her freaking mind last night over Elon Musk no longer policing content on X. We have the full clip. She goes into this hysterical meltdown, attacking Trump, attacking Elon Musk, blaming Donald Trump for what's happening in LA. You can't make this up. Also, what is happening with Tulsi Gabbard? Reports coming in that she now supports FISA 702. What? Is this true? We're going to break it down. Also, more stories from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. Jen Psaki spending her evening broadcast last night on MSNBC attacking Donald Trump and Elon Musk, trying to rewrite history on the Biden administration's failed response to Hurricane Milton, Hurricane Helene last year, and doubling down, tripling down, in fact, on why policing misinformation, she says, is critical in this country. What she really means is policing truthful information that's critical of Dems and establishment policies she thinks needs to be taken down and throttled. For example, something legacy media isn't reporting on, which should be a major learning moment for the people in LA, for the voters in California, is that some of the only buildings left still standing in Pacific Palisades are the Palisades Village Mall. You could see them here, saved by businessman Rick Caruso, this guy. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he was Karen Bass's 2022 mayoral opponent, the person who should be mayor of Los Angeles today. Caruso had served as the commissioner for the LA Department of Water and Power in 1985, the youngest commissioner in history at the time. This guy, a private citizen and businessman, personally contracted a private firefighting service to help save the mall. This guy was a hair's breadth away from winning in 2022. Would things have been different? Because he was a white man, likely, he lost to Karen Bass, the person largely now blamed for the failure of curtailing these catastrophic fires. You won't hear that on MSNBC. Jen Psaki too busy blaming Donald Trump and Elon Musk and freaking out over what she calls misinformation that's casting blame on Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, and rightfully so. This whole clip that we're about to play exemplifies why liberal media's ratings are in the toilet today. Nobody's buying this crap anymore. Roll the tape.
And with these fires still burning, we are facing important questions about how to mitigate and prevent disasters like this in the future. Fact is, leaders will need to confront a very complicated and challenging reality moving forward. But right now, that is not exactly what is happening. Instead, Donald Trump and his allies are injecting half-truths, misinformation, and flat-out lies in some cases in order to score a version of political points, I suppose. We saw something similar play out just this past October in the aftermath of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, when Trump repeatedly lied about FEMA spending disaster relief funds on migrants, which didn't happen. Also baselessly claiming that the Biden administration was absent and incompetent in delivering aid, despite what elected officials of both parties on the ground said. Those lies were then spread and amplified by the richest man in the world on the social media site that he owns. So I guess none of us should have been shocked this week when Elon Musk posted that the Los Angeles Fire Department prioritized DEI.
We have the clip of her admitting this, folks. We played it a few days ago. We can play it again. I don't want to waste your time, but she's on camera bragging about this, bragging about reshaping the fire department with DEI and being more DEI compliant. Let's continue.
That appeared to be a disgusting dig at the city's fire chief, Kristen Crowley, who has served in the department for decades, rising through the ranks to become the first female and LGBTQ fire chief in LA's history. Musk also amplified a post this week from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Yes, that guy. He's still around. Alex Jones wrote that Los Angeles fires are part of a larger globalist plot to wage economic warfare and deindustrialize the United States before triggering total collapse. I mean, not sure that guy's okay. Musk responded to that post by writing, "True." Yes, just to repeat here, that's just the richest man in the world and the best friend of the incoming president confirming to his 200 million followers that he thinks the devastating wildfires are a part of a globalist plot. And so now we're back in this vicious cycle where Trump and his new bestie push lies about a natural disaster, and then right-wing media runs with them.
I'll say it out loud. They have no intention of putting out these fires.
All these people are focused on pronouns and fish you can't eat and, scrubbing white people from the fire department.
DEI, as Elon Musk said, can actually mean DIE.
In the events like this, you sort of look, well, is it on purpose? I can make all kinds of horrible theories up in my head, conspiracy theories and everything else, but it just seemed a little convenient that there was no water and and that the wind conditions were right and that there are people ready and willing and able to start fires. And are they commissioned to do so, or are they just acting on their own volition? I don't know.
That's a conspiracy theorist playing it all out on TV and nobody questioning him.
Look, we could do an entire show, an entire hour show, just showing the proof of why everything she says, for the most part, is wrong and false, lies. Or she just doesn't know what she's talking about, and she's on national television with this. We have the chief, like I said, of the LAFD, for heaven's sake, bragging on camera 2 years ago about reshaping the firefighting force to be more DEI compliant. They think we're that stupid. It's incredible. In another story, more than a dozen of President-elect Trump's cabinet nominees face confirmation hearings this week in the Senate. This will be the first major test of Trump's second term. As we know, establishment Washington is very unhappy with some of his selections. If all of them are confirmed, though, it will solidify MAGA's dominance of the Republican Party. Donald Trump's D&I nominee, Tulsi Gabbard, has suddenly, for instance, reversed her position and is now supporting FISA 702, the completely un-American and unconstitutional law that allows the FBI to obtain warrantless searches of American communications and metadata, the same law that allowed the FBI to spy on the Trump campaign and Donald Trump in 2016, not to mention thousands of other Americans' personal conversations, something that should be revoked, root and stem, and burned in the ash heap of history. Now, one of the reasons we like Tulsi so much on this show is because she was one of the rare people in Washington, one of the rare politicians who understood this. She was firm as steel in her principles of why FISA is awful, is a stain on America. Here she was in May 2020. Roll the tape.
In just a couple hours here, we'll be voting on a bill that would reauthorize certain provisions of the Patriot Act that have to do with Section 215 and the FISA court. Unfortunately, this bill in its current form still lacks the real reforms and changes that need to be made that actually protect our constitutional rights, our civil liberties and privacy guaranteed by the Fourth Amendment.
Confirmed, she will be perhaps the most markedly or most publicly anti-surveillance official to ever lead the part of the U.S. government that is tasked with doing surveillance on foreign entities. In 2020, back when she was still a Democrat and she was in Congress, she introduced a series of bills that would have been pretty profoundly antithetical to how the intelligence community thinks. Two of them were aimed at persuading the government to drop its prosecution of Edward Snowden, the former National Security Agency contractor who revealed the existence of bulk NSA collection of Americans' data back in 2013, as well as of Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks. Both of these men are seen really as almost enemies of the state within the intelligence community, even as they've attracted some support from kind of the sort of libertarian wing of the Republican Party, as well as some progressives in the Democratic Party. Gabbard also in 2020 introduced this piece of legislation that would have wholesale repealed one of the most powerful powerful surveillance authorities that the U.S. government has to spy on foreigners overseas, something called Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Now, that is legislation that has drawn some criticism from civil liberties advocates who say that it impinges on Americans' data privacy as well. But to wholesale repeal it without replacing it would be tantamount, according to some former U.S. intelligence officials, to effectively blinding the commander-in-chief. This is an authority under which as much as half of what's known as the president's daily brief is drawn from every day.
So what in the world happened? Does she really support this? Well, here's what I was told. The FISA process, and 702 specifically, is like the red line that the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence has drawn, saying any of Trump's nominees who don't understand any of his intelligence-related nominees in the IC don't understand why FISA 702 is critical to America's national security, they believe aren't qualified for the job and will likely vote no on their confirmation. Therefore, if Tulsi doesn't support it, if she doesn't flip her position publicly, it's very likely she won't be confirmed. So her flip-flopping is really just par for the course, folks. I still firmly believe that she opposes it. And I believe once she's inside, once she's on the inside, she'll use her influence as much as she can to oppose it. So anyone you hear making hay out of this on social media, calling her a sellout, I'd remind them that establishment Washington is looking for any reason they can to tank her nomination. Also, the last reauthorization of FISA 702, the last time Congress reauthorized it, basically allowing the IC, the intel community, the authority to spy on American citizens, just know they also modified it to exempt themselves from all warrantless searches. You can't make this up. Congress says, yes, FBI and CIA, we authorize you to continue to conduct warrantless searches on Americans, but we're not authorizing you to use those tools on us, the 535 members of Congress. What spineless weasels. In another story, the FBI has launched an investigation to find the people responsible for the drone that put a 6-foot hole in Canada's Super Scooper aircraft used to fight wildfires. Canada sent a Super Scooper down to California last week to help battle the Palisades fire. And after the incident, the plane was grounded, unfortunately. Since then, though, Canada sent 2 additional Super Scoopers to help. The assistant director of FBI's LA field office said yesterday, "I just like to stress that technique using the Super Scooper aircraft are one of our most effective techniques to fight fires like this. And when this happens, it puts everyone's lives at risk." And speaking of Canada, this brings us to our next story, all right? Canada's new Democratic Party leader, Jagmeet Singh, someone who would like to replace Trudeau as Canada's next prime minister, highly doubtful because he's got terrible public support. No one likes the guy. Well, doesn't stop him for wanting to be the next prime minister. He really wants it. He released a highly edited campaign video yesterday attacking Donald Trump, warning the United States, he says, that there will be a price to pay if Trump picks a fight with Canada. Yeah, we're real scared, saying Trump better be nice to Canada because we sent you resources last week to fight the LA fires. Watch this.
I have a message for Donald Trump. Our country's not for sale. Not now, not ever. I lived across this country, and I can tell you, Canadians are a proud people. We're proud of our country, and we're ready to fight like hell to defend it. Right now, with the forest fires ravaging homes, Canadian firefighters showed up. That's who we are. We show up and support our neighbors. But if Donald Trump thinks, if you think you can pick a fight with us, there'll be a price to pay. I've committed that if Donald Trump imposes tariffs on us, we should respond with retaliatory tariffs in kind. I think that anyone running as prime minister should do the same.
Someone should tell Jagmeet that nothing justifies a $50 to $200 billion trade deficit between our two countries, including your Super Scooper aircrafts. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.